Hi everybody, it's meteorologist Joe Cioffi. It's Thursday, August the 9th, 2018. As we move along here, in the upper left corner, you can see Hurricane Hector as it moves along to the west. On a course, actually looks like it might be a little bit north of west, passing well south of the Hawaiian Islands. Resident statistician Anthony Orr points out that Hurricane Hector is now number one on the list, strongest hurricane, 155 mile an hour winds, the strongest since 2006 when Hurricane Cioffi was on the table here, and that hurricane actually crossed the international date line and went to the other side as Typhoon Cioffi, and this, I believe that's how it's pronounced, it's I-O-K-E, and it looks like Hector is going to cross the international date line, and if it holds together, it'll do it as a hurricane, and then it'll be called a typhoon. Anyway, we'll look up close in just a second. Just want to just take care of a few things right up top. If you're watching this live, so you're seeing these satellites and radars fairly close to real time. We're at 7:04 Eastern time. But if you are watching this on the replay, please be advised that the radars and satellites are going to be dated. So with respect to severe weather, you want to check your local National Weather Service office, and you can access that by going to weather.gov. And with respect to hurricanes, you can go to the National Hurricane Center at nhc.noaa.gov, and from there you can click on the link to the Central Pacific Hurricane Center if you are looking for additional information on Hector. And here it is. And one of the impressive things to me about this, as we watched the loop from yesterday and last night and through the day today, now going to the visible pictures, the eye is fairly well defined, and it kind of looks like it's a little less ragged. Not that it was that ragged during the day, but looks like the structure here is holding together fairly well. The eye seems to be taking a little bit of a bump to the north. The eye is right at about 17 north. I'm just kind of guesstimating this. It's just shy of 17 north, and at about 100 and I believe that's 157 degrees west, and moving on to the northeast. I'm just going to let me just make that a little bit smaller. I'll get that longitude right. I stand corrected. I'm sorry, I'm 5 degrees off. I thought it was over 160. So that's at about 17 and about 162. And moving right along, 180 is the international date line, and then we start counting the numbers backwards to 179 east, and the numbers go down. But the next threat could be to Johnston Island before it crosses the international date line. They have tropical storm watches up for that island. But no, by the way, notice how far south this actually is to the Hawaiian island chain, especially from the island of Kauai, the westernmost island. It's a good 300 plus miles south of there. So the seas certainly getting roughed up. The marine conditions there very problematic, but that really is about it. And here is the Hurricane Center's forecast track, actually hooking it to the northwest as it approaches 180 degrees west. So probably sometime late Sunday night or early Monday it'll cross the date line. Whether that winds up weakening or not, there are some shear issues that could be developing. There's a cutoff low that's going to form out to the northwest of the hurricane, and that could start having some impact. We'll see. 16.9 and 161.5, that was the advisory as of 5 p.m. Eastern time or 11 a.m. Standard Time in Hawaii, carrying winds of 120 miles an hour, still a Category 3 hurricane, calling the movement west at 16, but I think it's probably at the very least a bit north of due west. Now, on the Atlantic side, Debbie is no more, as it has been absorbed up by a trough up in the North Atlantic, so we're really not going to have to pay, we're not going to pay any attention to that anymore. And as we look at the rest of the tropical Atlantic, everything kind of remains the same. There is a wave that has moved off the African coast. If you look at the lower right, you can see the blossoming cloud cover. But upper air conditions really here are not all that conducive. Neither are the water temperatures, by the way. They are not conducive to tropical storm development. They were a little bit on the low side. I'm going to bring up the water temperature map, and I took a look at it in terms of sea surface temperatures. So if we look at the actual sea surface temperatures, they have warmed in the tropical Atlantic. Okay, make no mistake, they have warmed up, but where that tropical wave is, the water temperatures are, they're marginal. They're like 24, 25 degrees Celsius, and you have to get west of 35 degrees west where you suddenly begin to see 28 Celsius degree water. So a wave coming off the African coast, usually they don't really get going until they're certainly west of 30. That water is going to continue to warm, by the way, for the next 4 weeks or so. We're going to see those water temperatures edge higher, and perhaps if a wave that comes off late this month it might have water temperatures that are a bit more supportive. But with respect to the anomalies, in other words, where are we when we talk about these things? What's the situation with respect to above normal or below normal? The ocean water temperatures along and south of 10 degrees north are near or a little bit above normal. The ocean water temperatures north of 10 degrees north are near or a little bit below normal. They are not quite 1 degree below normal, so somewhere between 0 and less than 1. So the water temperatures are they're not as cold as they were. It seems like the colder anomaly has spread out all across the tropical and subtropical Atlantic from one side to the other. The water temperatures off the southeast coast are actually slightly below average, and then you notice once you get north of, say, 35 degrees north, up into New England and out to the east along 40 degrees north, there we have ocean water temperatures that are running up to several degrees Celsius above normal. In fact, I happen to notice, I'll even put it back up. Why don't I just show you the water temperature here? If we look at the close-up map, that 28 degree Celsius line, okay, the isotherm, the line of equal temperature, gets almost to 40. It's like up to about 38 degrees north and 70 degrees west. You've got water temperatures here that are in the lower 80s, fairly far north and west of what would normally be the Gulf Stream. So that is interesting to see, if only because of the fact that usually that 28 degree isotherm cuts out straight to the east off the Virginia coast, and it looks like it's bulged up closer to 38 or 9. So if we wind up with a tropical system here, as it gets further north, it might not weaken as quickly as they otherwise would once they get north of 35 degrees north. Usually they start to weaken because of the ocean water temperatures there, but if you've got that 28 degree isotherm pushed almost up to 40 degrees north, that's going to, at the very least, slow any weakening process down. The Gulf of Mexico water temperatures are right around average, so the same for the Caribbean, above 28 degrees Celsius, and probably some pockets of ocean water temperatures at around 30 degrees Celsius or 86 degrees Fahrenheit, which is supportive of a major hurricane. But you still have upper air conditions that are not conducive for tropical storm development, and I really didn't see anything on the models that would suggest anything else. I want to come back, by the way. There's one thing I do want to point out. Let's see if I can get the closer picture. This may or may not mean anything, but let me get the Atlantic coast picture. There's a lot of convection that's developed off the North Carolina coast, and you see it there, and it's basically dropping slowly southward. There's not much here with this, and many of the weather models just basically just string this out and kick it out to the northeast. But being that we seem to be in a situation where we're going to be dealing with homegrown systems more than anything else. Let's see where if this is still around tomorrow. The convection blossoms out, firing up. There's an area firing up off the South Carolina coast there. Nothing in the model suggests that this would develop anyway, but just the fact that it's there. Let's see if it's still there tomorrow, and then perhaps we might get a bit more interested in this. But for now, I just kind of put that out there as an aside, since there really isn't too much else to look at from that respect. Now, the radars as of 7:13, a big change here in the northeast, in that we do have some thunderstorms up in northern Maine and well up in upstate New York, right near the Canadian border. But we've actually gotten a shot of slightly lower humidity to come down into the mid-Atlantic states. It's not everybody is experiencing this evenly. There are still some pockets where the dew points this afternoon were in the low 70s, but a lot of the areas have at least dropped into the 60s, and in some places even into the low and mid 60s, which is a big change from the last few days when we were seeing dew points all afternoon long in the 70s. So the tropical air is out. We've gotten some slightly drier air, but it's not picture-perfect dry Canadian air. Across the upper Midwest, seeing a line of heavy thunderstorms this evening in southern Wisconsin, about to move into northern Illinois, near Milwaukee, and to the northwest of Chicago. Also, some across parts of southern Michigan, in and around the Detroit area as well. And out in the west, we really don't have too much happening here. A few showers in the monsoonal areas. By the way, with respect to the California fires, one plus side today was the fact that overnight, low clouds and light rain came in from off the Pacific and moved inland, and that actually helped firefighters get the fire in Valencia under control. This is what we'll have to look for over the next week to 2 weeks. If we can get these, at least get the nighttime and morning low clouds, a bit of a southeast wind perhaps to come in from off the ocean and bring in cool, moist air. It doesn't really produce a whole lot of rain out of it, but it's enough at least to moisten the air up and help the firefighting that's going on there. The monsoonal rains in the southwest, we do have the usual shower and thunderstorm activity across parts of Texas and across the Gulf states, and it's actually quite active this evening in Georgia, Alabama. It looks like a really strong line of thunderstorms here in south central Alabama into western Georgia, and some of those heavy downpours extending up into eastern Tennessee and about to move into western North Carolina. Today, the thunderstorms in Florida seem to be more concentrated on the east coast, whereas yesterday they were in the southwestern part of the state. Again, a reminder, it's 7:16 Eastern Time, so this is obviously dated if you're watching this on a replay later tonight, so check your local National Weather Service office at weather.gov. Okay, where are we going with the pattern here in the long haul? Well, we've got the new GFS in. Okay, good. There was a little bit of a problem today getting some of the models, but it looks like the new GFS is in. So I'm actually going to be looking at it for the first time with you. Starting with today, the westerlies in the eastern part of the United States lowering just far enough south so we get this nice little break from the wicked humidity of the last week. In the west, big upper high still driving the heat in the west. Let's see how this changes, though, as we go into the weekend. You're going to see that new trough drop into the Ohio Valley. It stretches out from the St. Lawrence Valley and then drops down into the Ohio Valley. By Sunday, you've got this cutoff low that is sitting in northeast Ohio. Also of importance is the ridge in the west weakens and shifts up into the northern plains. Now, offshore, we have the remnants, what will probably be a remnant low of Hurricane John, and to the southwest of that, to the southwest of that, is what represents Tropical Storm Christy. In the west, with that ridge flattening like this may open the door for what I was saying earlier, where we could get more of a flow coming in from off the coast, nighttime low clouds and moisture moving inland and producing maybe a little bit of light rain or drizzle. That certainly doesn't hurt the firefighting chances and does improve it a bit, and it's certainly better than no rain at all. Now, the cutoff in the east will take its sweet time. It's going to drop down right along 80 degrees west, and you can see it here as we move into Tuesday morning, just all over Virginia and Pennsylvania. Now, this to me, I think, is going to be a bit concerning with respect to downpours and thunderstorms. I'm just going to go back to Monday here. For the areas in the mid-Atlantic states, we have to look for the possibility that there could be some hefty downpours in some places over the weekend and into the start of next week. And with the upper low in that position, it's likely that there will probably be some heavier downpours moving into parts of the Northeast. It isn't until Tuesday night and Wednesday that trough opens up and then pulls away to the Northeast. So that gets rid of it, but it's going to start on Saturday and last into at least Tuesday, where the weather in the mid-Atlantic and in the Northeast is going to be rather unsettled. After that, the models try to have a little bit of a ridge over Florida and the Southeast, but it doesn't really quite pump up. You do have a west-southwest flow, so this will at least keep things very warm and humid into next weekend. Big change from the models from the last couple of days, trying to make a deep trough coming into the east for next weekend and early next week. It has backed off from that. We may have to wait. There's something more vigorous that comes down for the early part of the week of Sunday, August 19th. So let's say the week of the 19th. That might swing a bit of a front through, but the models are shying away from an important trough in the east, and in fact, it goes to a ridge position at the end of the period. I don't know how real that is. Of course, we know that these things are going to change, and we know that after about day 7 or 8, how models tend to get a bit squirrely. So we're going to, please bear that in mind. But we certainly feel fairly confident with regards to where we're going weather-wise over the next week or so. Here's how it looks on the surface, and starting later Friday night into Saturday, you actually have an overrunning that's going on here with high pressure off the New England coast and another high that's sitting over in Iowa. It's kind of enveloping itself around a weak surface low that you see there in eastern North Carolina. This is all due to that upper low that's cutting off. So you're going to have lower than normal pressures in the mid-Atlantic states down into parts of the southeast, and that will produce rounds of downpours and thunderstorms, particularly in the afternoon and evening. They seem to fire up and then kind of die off in inland areas. They might hang around more along the coast where the low center is, and it looks particularly active for Monday into Monday night, that we might see rather numerous showers and storms running around, and still lingering there on Tuesday with the upper low. I wonder, too, with that cold upper low sitting in my neck of the woods come Monday and Tuesday, that could make for some maybe some isolated severe thunderstorms on those 2 days, Monday and Tuesday. We'll see. And then once it pulls out, again, with that west-southwest flow, you're still going to try to have some downpours and thunderstorms to deal with every day next week. There is a front. This is a much weaker version of the front that we saw yesterday. Here it is on yesterday's run. I'll go back to the day run yesterday, which showed a nice push of dry, cool air coming down for next weekend. It's not there on this run. It's a much weaker version. You don't have that big upper low in Canada dropping down. So it'll push a cold front through. Probably will bring relief in terms of humidity. I don't know, because there's not really a good dry push of air behind it now. And in fact, models are still lingering showers even right through next weekend. So we know that the trough wants to stay in the east, and it keeps reappearing there, and this is becoming problematic. And if Canada is not being cooperative, it's going to be tough to shoot down dry air masses. Here's the full North America view in terms of the pattern. And you can see up in Canada, you do have a fairly strong Canadian jet that's beginning to develop, but it's still pretty far to the north. Yesterday, we wanted to bring that trough further south, but again, not successful on today's run. There's a system here that well, I keep saying next week, so it'll be the week after next, actually. But notice, the westerlies still kind of want to stay up near the Canadian border. It does try to drop the trough more into the plains and the northwest rather than in the east toward the end of the period. But my feeling on this is highly skeptical after day 7 or 8. So we'll see. Let's just take a look at let me get rid of this. I'm going to shrink myself down. I'm going to bring up the 7-day WPC forecast of rainfall. So, generally over the next 7 days, so this actually, the bulk of this, let's say, would be Saturday through next Wednesday. The purple area, you start with the, this is mainly greater than 1.5 inches of rain. So you've got this fairly large area from the coastal Carolinas northward into my neck of the woods and into southern New England and even parts of central New England, showing 2 to 3 inch rain amounts. The areas in western Virginia and West Virginia, 1.5 inches or less over the next 7 days. So with the trough of the 3 troughs that we've had, the last one was furthest to the west, setting up near the middle Mississippi Valley. The first one set up on the west side of the Appalachians at around 85 degrees west. This one is going to set up near 80 degrees west. So this one is going to be the furthest east of the 3 troughs that we've seen in the last 2.5 weeks. By the way, in terms of heat, just to give you the map with the warnings up, we do have excessive heat warnings up for much of the Northwest and in the north, from Montana and the Northern Rockies and in the Northwest, except near the coast. And of course, we also have some excessive heat through California. The gray area you see there, that's all air quality alerts because of the fires. The smoke from the fires has spread out over a rather large geographic area, and that is going to continue to have impact in Southern California. Again, hoping that we do see a bit of an onshore flow that develops that would bring in some low clouds and some light rain and drizzle at night and into the early morning hours. We'll have fingers crossed on that. Okay, let's come to the chat board tonight and say hi to everybody. Hope everybody had a great day today. And those of you who are in my area, I hope you enjoyed the break from the humidity. Timothy Veltman is here, and so is Israel. Johnny Quest, maybe the Gulf of Mexico will be the best bet for tropical development. Perhaps. I don't know that any place is has a greater chance than others. I'm still, even with the conditions the way they are, if you still could wind up with something trying to come out of the tropical Atlantic. I just don't think it's going to be a bowling alley like it was last year with one after another. The one clue to look for, let's watch the Pacific. If the development shuts down in the next week or so, that usually, when the Pacific shuts down, the Atlantic will rev up and vice versa. So if the Pacific goes into a bit of a lull, I think that's when we'll probably see the Atlantic fire up. So let's see what happens over the next week if the Pacific begins to shut down. There are no new disturbances out there that look like they're going to develop into anything, at least over the next 3 or 4 days. So we'll have to see if that holds beyond the short term. And good night. Do you see a forecast, a blocking pattern for the New York Giants tonight? William Huber. Let's hope they try. Watching preseason games, in my view, in football is usually a bit torturous, as everybody has still got sore muscles and they're not quite into tip-top shape yet. Mirtha Gunter is up. So you saw your message that you were, I don't know if it was yesterday or the other day, you were cooking up a storm. Good for you. I've been making buttermilk baked fried chicken. That's my new kick, because I've been making butter, and one of the things that one of the side effects from making butter is, besides clogged arteries, is the production of buttermilk that you get out of it. And I've been using the buttermilk to marinate chicken, and then I just cover it lightly with breadcrumbs and then throw it in the oven at 375 and bake it for 45 minutes, and you have some pretty good baked fried chicken. And I've been marinating it, by the way, for the chicken I made today. I actually marinated for 24 hours in the buttermilk, and when there was quite a bit of it. It covered all the chicken over the top. I was using drumsticks and thighs, bone in. When I took them out this morning, most of the buttermilk had been absorbed, and I have to tell you, they were incredibly delicious. Johnny Quest, maybe you'll get lucky if that upper low and trough is far enough to the east that the heavier rains will be to your east this time, and not necessarily over you. But you know what? With convection, one thunderstorm could put that observation I just made and just make it completely wrong. No beach or pool this weekend, David Fuller. A lot of areas from New Jersey to southern New England on Saturday especially may have a hard time getting out of the 70s because of the wind coming in off the water. Let's see. Anthony, let's see. Interesting stat from Colorado State University: since 1851, no hurricane has ever made a landfall on today's date since 1851, August 9th. That's interesting. A series of perfect coincidences, nonetheless, but that is interesting that August 9th somehow has avoided it. Eventually, it probably will have one. Okay. I know, Weather Enlo, you're looking for lower humidity. I feel for you. I really think you're going to have it's going to be very tough for you right through at least the end of next week, unless the models go back to that plunging trough into the eastern part of the United States late next week and next weekend. You're going to have to wait a while for any kind of, humidity break. Long duration rain starting Saturday and lasting through most of next week. I wouldn't be surprised, but watch where the axis of that trough is, because if it's a little bit further to the east, you might catch a little bit of a break. Weather Hub TV. The models are printing up lows here and there. There's not much with them, and they're not doing anything with them. But the waves that are the waves that are coming off the African coast right now, the one that's coming off and one behind it, they do appear to be a bit on the robust side. Let's see if the upper air winds shear them out, and let's see if the Saharan dust gets in the way, because those are two things that are still in play. 90 in Nova Scotia. Wonder if anyone knows if it happens often there. I would think that it's not. I'm thinking it's one of those things where it happens. It's not. It's unusual, but not that rare, depending on the setup. But it does happen. I just, whether it happens every summer or maybe it happens only a couple of times on average in a given summer, I don't know what the stats are, so I'd have to really do a little bit of digging. Israel, too early to get too worked up about whether the GFS has got troughing in the east going through the latter part of the month. It's a long way to the middle of September for fall weather. James wants, you want all my recipes? Well, one of these days I'll do another live stream where I'm actually cooking something. I actually have a couple of videos in my video library with ribs and a few other things. You can take a look at that. But every once in a while I do get inspired. The problem is I got to have somebody there with me to hold the camera while I'm live streaming a cooking episode, because it's very hard to, do things and hold a camera in your hand at the same time. I could put it on a stand, but then, you have to move the camera to show the shots of what I'm mixing and what I'm doing and everything else. But one of these days I'll have somebody there with me to do it, and we'll get that on there. Ryan Ford, any signs of things getting cooler going into September if the models go out that far? I haven't really looked at the monthlies. The last time I looked at the monthlies, they were showing basically near average temperatures for the month of December. I'll give it a quick look here off screen and see what they're doing. Let's go to the 2-meter temperature anomaly for September. So the new CFS model has it a little bit above normal east of the Mississippi and below normal in the plains and Rockies. Let me still the weeklies. Okay. So week 6 is, so this is, let's look at week 5. So the first 2 weeks of September, near or slightly above normal for the first week of September, a little above normal for the second week, and close to average or slightly above average for week number 3. By the way, you could look at those climate models. Let me give credit where credit is due to tropicaltidbits.com. Those are the maps, the weather maps that I show you on a nightly basis. And they're wonderful. There's a lot of information there, a lot of maps, models, you name it, it's on there. tropicaltidbits.com, and many thanks to Levi Cowan for his great website and for letting us use it. All right, folks, coming up on 7:35 Eastern Time, I think it's time to say goodnight. We are going to be live streaming on Facebook, probably figure around 9:15 or so. That seems to be when we've been doing it lately. On my Facebook page, meteorologist Joe Cioffi for the Joe and Joe Weather Show with my colleague Joe Rayo. That's, again, roughly at about 9:15. Hopefully we'll get started on time. If not, just be patient. We're usually on by 9:20, 9:25, the latest. Again, radars are dated if you're watching this on a replay, so go to weather.gov for the latest. And the Hurricane Center, latest information there, nhc.noaa.gov. And if you're looking for information on Hector, from that site you can jump over to the Central Pacific Hurricane Center. Thank you for those of you who have shopped on Amazon and Ebates using the Amazon and Ebates link that are on the descriptor to the video and the descriptor to this live stream. I participate in the Associates program for affiliate advertising for both Amazon and Ebates. They're designed for this channel to earn fees from Amazon and Ebates by linking to their sites. You shop there, you save money, you get your stuff, and they throw me back a little bit of coin so I can get a couple of cigars for my drive home. Have a great evening, everybody. We will see you either later on Facebook, or we'll see you right here tomorrow on my YouTube channel.